haven't given us much on selection, but you've forced on a couple of you. Also considering maybe you need to change it up as well. Have you got much options to work with this week?
Oh yeah, we've got options. So we've got, we're still early in the week though. We only played Sunday, so we'll work through a little bit. Obviously, Darcy's going to be missed, so we'll do what we can and figure out what we need to balance the team out the way we would like it to be to give ourselves a great chance.
Tommy Cochrane did himself no harm.
Tommy did pretty well in the sample. I mean, we've got Trav hopefully available too as well back this week, so we've got some choices with what we can and can't do, and optimistically we're pleased to see Lordy in the side from not much football and play really well. So there's some growth in our game.
Does Lord just need to get a run at it now? Is that the
yeah, I think I would have thought so. He's played some solid AFL football every time he's got in, so he just needs to stay healthy and stay in the team and keep playing well and build his career from there. So it's exciting to see the big fella out there doing what he did.
What about at the other end of the scale? How much faith do you keep putting in some guys that are out of form?
Such as
particular players? Or?
Yeah, which ones?
Well, I'm just saying, some of you guys that are out of form, how much faith do you keep putting in some of those guys?
Depends on our availability a little bit, and also there's a selection issue that comes around with performance. There's no doubt about that, and we'll certainly look at those areas of our game. I think if you're continually not playing at your level, that runs a risk for you, and we need to make sure we represent selection with some integrity.
How do you combat just really those players who might not be in the best of touch? It feels like there's some almost perceived pressure that then leads to skill errors. How do you sort of coach? Yeah,
I think that happens when confidence drops off a little bit. That definitely happens, and our job is to support them, give them confidence, give them belief, allow them to understand that they're more than capable and good players for us when they need to be, and we'll give them, more often than not, we give them plenty of chance to get their form back in shape that they need to.
How do you balance that? We notice that there's more handball in the game, but they're not always coming off.
Yeah, our turnover part of our game was really quite healthy even last week. We created some turnovers. We understand this game's not mistake free, and there's plenty of turnovers in the game. I think when you lose, they get amplified a little bit more than if you win. If we had to turn that game into a victory, maybe that was the reason we got back into it, was because we were handballing the ball a little bit more. We made some mistakes. It's bloody hard to play this game without making mistakes.
Does Port have a long-standing rivalry with Hawthorn? It's been talked about a bit the last couple of days.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's long-standing, but it's certainly it's building as a healthy rivalry, which is good for the game. I think that's always been the case, and I always say the same things. Rivalries are very good for the game. It seems to be attracting some attention, and it seems to be bringing some energy to gather around, which is great.
Have you spoken to anyone at Hawthorn since?
No.
Is that deliberate, or just you have no need?
I had no need. I had no need to speak to them, and I'm sure they didn't really want to speak to me. So ultimately, my job is to do what I can to help Port Adelaide through, and that's all I spend my time on. And look, honestly, I said what I said at the end of last year's game. It was emotions boiled over. I was disappointed in that myself. I've said that. I've apologised publicly. I think it's time to move on for me, and I've got to focus on our performance this week.
Will you address that with the players, that emotion and the need to keep that in check?
No, we need to address our position currently, and our position means that we need to do everything we can to win this game of football, and that's where we'll spend our time on. It just so happens that Hawthorn are our opponent, and it's gather round. It's a pretty big build-up, which we appreciate, but the reality is it's bigger for us in the sense of our season needs to get back into some better shape.
Are you wary of Hawthorn's? They're an emotional team, they're a young team, and they ride that wave of emotion. Are you wary of letting guys like Ginnivan, Watson and Co get off the lead?
Yeah, I'm wary of Hawthorn. Absolutely, they're a high quality team. They're on top of the ladder for a reason. I think they're the premiership favourites currently. It's a long way to go between now and the end of the year, but they are playing some great footy. We know our absolute best is going to be required to control all their weapons. They've got more than one, more than just small forwards. They've got some incredible backs. They're a really well balanced team. So there's a pretty big task ahead of us, but we look forward to it.
So you don't approach it differently for a guy like Jack, who might thrive on the crowd energy, compared to someone who's maybe a bit more?
No, you don't. You don't spend your time in those spaces. You spend your time in the collective, and as I said, if you're focused on one, you get done by plenty of others in that team. It's a pretty strong team.
And what's the challenge when you, twice now, virtually a month, you play a team coming off the bye? Is that strange thing about the fixture again, but what challenge does that bring, knowing that they're refreshed, or can you take advantage of it?
I don't know. I don't absolutely know the answer to that question, because it's usually a result by result basis. Everyone tends to react to whoever wins or loses. Did they come off the bye? Didn't they come off the bye? Did they have a longer break? All those things I don't consider too much. The draw comes out in October. I'm really aware of what the draw looks like. We know our challenges, and we just need to be ready for what they are each week.
Is there hypocrisy that the AFL is leveraging what happened at the end of the game, scheduling this as the all eyes on the close of gather round game, and yet you copped it?
Look, it's not a spot I need to go into, I don't think, and talk around the outcomes. I did what I did, and I took the penalty that I was imposed with, and that's for other people to answer. Maybe that's a question for Andrew, not for me.
Are there any regrets around last time? If you had your time again, would you do things differently?
I think I said that straight after the game. I was disappointed that emotions boiled over at the time. Declared that straight after the game and moved on, and I'm still moving on.
Do you think the Hawks are holding any sort of grudge? Do you expect any extra spice from their side of it?
When you ultimately lose in the end of season game by a small margin, clearly there's a sting, and the reality is for us we expect that to be coming our way. But every team who's played them this year, I think, has felt the pressure, and we're not going to be separated from that. We know it's coming our way, and we look forward to the challenge.
Touch on sort of removing the rivalry and the emotion out of it. How much does having the experience of someone like Trav come in help with that?
Yeah, hopefully it gets through the whole week, and that works out, and it does play out that way. Look, as we all know, we haven't been absolutely in great form, but we've been building. I think we've been building our form, and I think Trav would only help us continue to build that form a little bit more so. So, experience really helps. Definitely helps when you're at this stage for us and where we're at. A bit of experience won't go astray.
How do you help your
making
captain, Ken? How do you help your captain work through the extra attention he's been getting?
Yeah, look, it's a growth part of his game for Connor. He's copped some some extra pressure from the opposition, but that's just great recognition. I would have thought it's great recognition for Connor that the reason this happens is because you're recognised as a great player. Let's continue to chase who you are as a great player and understand what makes you a great player, and that's what we spend our time, and Josh and myself, we spend our time encouraging Connor to be himself. Sometimes you go through a little patch. We'll help him, we'll support him, we'll give him some help on the ground, and we'll also give him some support off the ground.
He spent more time forward. Is that the way to beat it, or would you like him to get to a place where he can?
I don't think he spent too much time forward. To be fair, he spent time in different roles around the ball, but maybe starting positions looked a little bit different. But he certainly spent his time around the ball. But yeah, we're certainly supporting. We won't leave him hung out to dry. We'll try and help him avoid some of that attention. But that attention might shift straight away to Jason Horne-Francis, or it might shift to Zach Butters now. That's the challenge for us, is to whoever that player is, not just Connor. Zach went through it early last year. The challenges that you face, and I'm sure it's coming Jason's way at some point.
Ken, what are you making your Vince 50 numbers? I know it's a new attack and you haven't had the players you wanted, but you're getting the numbers again. How do you?
That was the first where we got the numbers, Rich. I was really happy about that.
And getting it on the scoreboard, how do you work on that?
Yeah, I think getting the numbers for a start in our favour. The front of centre stuff that we got back last week was really, really good. As I said, most times in those numbers we would deliver a victory. We gave up too big a start at the start of the game. It's clear. We got really, really close and didn't quite get to the end, but that's sometimes what you do. But I'm much happier to deal with those numbers, and we'll continue to grow the efficiency of those numbers. We all understand, don't we, that Todd and Luca were not out there for us. We're built. Ollie Law was out there for the very first time in quite a while. We're building quite a different front half. It's not going to be perfect, and we're going to come up against a high-quality defensive team this week. So there'll be some real challenges for us.
Last couple of guys.
There are a few spot fires against St Kilda over the weekend. Are you comfortable with where the guys are at, towing the line on that side of things?
I don't think there was too much in too many of the things that went on. I think there was one little incident that caused a few fines and bits and pieces, but outside of that, we can't. These blokes play with passion. They're meant to be competitive, and I like that about the way they play.
In Zach's next contract, will he ask for a sort of
fine
buffer or something?
Maybe, maybe. Not sure he'll get it, but maybe. He's just got to learn he knows. He's learning the rules. He plays on the edge. It's what we love about those type of players, isn't it? But, they're prepared to do whatever they need to do to try and win. And Toby and Zach are the two people who get put up as a bit. I don't mind either of them as players. Put it that way, I'd have them both in my team.
Ken, are these the sort of matchups that still really get you fired up and motivated as a coach? You know, there's a team coming for you. There's external talk about the rivalry, the feeling, the tension.
No, what gets me motivated is to do what we need to do here at Port Adelaide, and that's we've got to get our season going. We've got to get our season on track if we possibly can against a high-quality opponent. The rivalry part is just the added little piece of it, but there's too much to focus on for us about the season than, you know, what if we would get the game done this week? It's not going to change how I approach the next week. What if we don't? You know, that's probably a bigger question than the if we do.
The Hawks showed last year that even if you have a slow start to the year, you can still come home strong once you get your game in order. Can you take any solace from that?
We say it all the time as coaches. We all say it. You know, there's teams at the moment who are getting criticised pretty critically by lots of people, but 0-5 last year, and the Hawks got on this wonderful ride. I think Fages' team last year might have been at some point, you know, 13th on the ladder. They won the premiership. Things happen. It's a crazy game. Don't get too carried away just yet.